32 degrees. So you intro. This is your show.
Yeah, welcome to the show. We got our biggest guest here ever.
Smells good.
They've been good this week,
Yeah.
haven't they?
Oh, so good, so good. This is the whiskey ones.
Yeah, the whiskey and the cognacs were good.
Yeah.
I want this to be like I want it to be like just like a conversation.
Yeah. That's
Like
the best.
I don't want to, and I don't even want to focus on real estate to be honest. I just want to be like, just
Whatever.
10,000 foot level.
Whatever the ether allows you
Whatever
to.
wherever we go.
Look, we got people live.
Oh.
So guys, we're gonna be. This is being taped for your show, by the way, for the people that are just checking in on us and they want to go and watch. Is it gonna be edited or just gonna be like raw?
I might put in my intro at the beginning, but nothing like I'll just keep it raw.
So what you want to do is shout out your channel, let them know where they can watch it, and they can go watch. And by the way, they should be supporting all of the channels.
They should be supporting us all.
We got people here live watching us live. By the way, if you guys have questions, you can write it on the right hand side. You'll see there's a chat. You guys can write your questions. We are in Costa Rica. We are live. This is Luis Rivas, head coach of World Genius, and I am the godfather of real estate. If you are just discovering me, if you are on Luis's channel, hey, why don't you come over to my channel, Alfonso Cuadra? Just look me up on the search and subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell to be notified the next time I'm doing a video, and just be plugged in. Just be plugged in.
Yeah, just follow us. Just tune in.
This is going to be a really good conversation because we got the Costa Rican rum.
Hello.
Ron.
Hello.
And we're having a good time. Hopefully not too good because this is live.
Well, we'll keep it PG, right?
We'll keep it PG for sure. Oh,
I'll take a little squirt there.
Yeah, for those of you that are just joining us, there might be some noises coming from the background. We are live. We are sitting in front of this beautiful house that we rented for the week,
isn't it?
We're getting ready to head towards Playa Grande tomorrow, where we're going to start our retreat, and I am excited about that. What about you?
I feel like kind of like pins and needles, like when you're waiting for something big to happen, like you're anticipating a little something. So I'm feeling like, I don't want to sound cliche, but I just feel like something's gonna go down.
Like, we're gonna have
lives are gonna change.
Well, you know what happens is, during these retreats, and I think I'm on my 10th one. Each time we fine tune the process, and as a facilitator, the job is to make sure that people are as comfortable as possible, so they can be as vulnerable as possible. And the more we work on the group, the deeper each individual attendee can go, the more vulnerable we can get. This is when we start changing lives, because a lot of people, so there's going to be about 25 people participating in the next 5 days. And a lot of these people, they probably don't even realize it. They're probably getting their stuff together. They're getting their flip-flops. They're getting their, their lotion. It's not about suntanning and flip-flops, even though we are in a beautiful environment, but it's about discovery. And a lot of these people, I'm gonna bet that they've never had an opportunity to even reflect on their lives or even go deep, And so there's going to be a lot of vulnerability. With that comes change, because if you can allow yourself to be vulnerable in a safe space and talk about the things that you really want and the things that are really holding you back, that's when real change happens. That's been my experience. Oh, more people, guys. I want you to comment on the right-hand side.
Where do you see them? Here?
Up here, yeah. So I want you to, who's ever there, and as you guys are coming in, comment on the right hand side. We want to know where you're coming from. We want to know where you are right now. Right now, we are in Costa Rica, baby, and we're just getting prepared for our retreat. We're having this beautiful conversation with Luis Rivas, and I'm going to smoke the cigar.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. A lot of people are going to be coming to this retreat, and they're going to be in paradise, right? They're going to be. This is paradise. Like, this is our backyard, bro. We grew up. We were hatched here,
Yeah.
and so this is like this whole piece of land. This tiny little piece of land is like it's very near and dear to us. So every time I'm in this neck of the woods, I feel something.
Yeah.
I feel like call it nostalgia, call it like homesickness, call it like guilt
I
because I'm
feel
not there. What do you feel?
I feel the same way. Like for a lot of people, they immigrate or um, they go somewhere, abroad, or they immigrate to another country or whatnot. And then what happens is that a lot of people don't go back,
Yeah.
and so especially from Latin America, especially if you came from a war torn country,
Mm-hmm.
because when we immigrated and we came as refugees, we immigrated in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
There was nothing to go back to,
No,
right?
that was not an option.
Yeah. So we build our lives in Canada, right? In North America, that's kind of where I've built my life. That's where my kids are. That's where my investments are. This is where my home is. But when I started to explore, now in my later teens, when I got into a little bit of money, I wanted to travel, and I didn't want to go to like Jamaica, not because find anything wrong with Jamaica. I always wanted to go somewhere in Latin America. And I think the first place that I went to was Dominican Republic. And instantly I felt at home.
Same.
And it was something that it's like embedded in the back of your mind of like how home is.
Mm-hmm.
And that you never forget that no matter how young you come. And then I went to El Salvador. I went back home in 98. And I've made it a mission to travel to as many Latin American countries. And if I choose to go on a vacation, I always want to go somewhere where they're speaking Spanish, because it's like it feels like home. Doesn't matter if it's Colombia, if it's Venezuela, if it's even in Florida,
Yeah,
I feel at home.
Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the language that connects everyone, unites everyone. There's a culture that comes behind it,
Mm-hmm.
and two Latino people can really understand each other because our backgrounds are pretty much the same. The culture's the same, and so this is why I love it here.
Yeah.
Woo! What's going on, guys? I'm not
Yeah.
sure if we are seeing the chats. Maybe it's in front of no, no, don't worry. If we're not seeing it, it might be it might get bumped up.
Yeah, so let's talk about El Salvador for a minute, um, because
The motherland.
it's going through a big metamorphosis, right? It's becoming this. It's cocooning, and what's emerging is this beautiful butterfly. Uh, how does that like? I know it's on top of your mind almost daily, right?
Yeah.
What what do you feel about like? How does that feel?
It's surreal.
Yeah,
For the longest time, people ask me, where are you from? And I say, Central America.
yeah. And then the next question is where?
Where? And then I'm like, well, I'm from, my grandparents, I'm from Nicaragua. I was born in this place, El Salvador. You probably never heard of it. They're like, no, what is it? Should I go there? I'm like, no, don't go there.
Yeah, same.
There's a stigma. I wish we didn't get an ashtray.
Just
Yeah,
go
yeah,
here. We'll get it
yeah.
after.
Don't don't tell the owners. But there's a stigma. It's it's politically driven. media driven. There's a lot of people that had their hands in El Salvador. It's a small little country that no one really cared about. You know, for the past 40 years, it's been in turmoil.
Mm.
There's war, instability. When I was there was war and instability, and we left because of that reason. But after the people that stayed, I mean, a lot of people left, but a lot of people stayed. And after the war was done, yeah, people have been fighting. There's peace now, but people are still hungry, and what they don't have any food, but they got guns,
Mm.
and so they started gang banging. Um, a lot of that came from all the people that went to the U.S. illegally and lived in Los
Picked up
Angeles.
some
Yeah,
bad habits.
yeah, and then they all at some point in the '90s they were just getting all deported daily, and so there's just been this aura of negativity around El Salvador to the point where people couldn't even go outside. My uncle, um, my uncle had a job at a university or a school of some sort, and he had to cross the bridge, and he had to pay a toll for the gangs to
Wow.
cross the bridge.
Wow.
And so, if you can imagine, like you're paying this toll, and you're gonna make the same thing at work, so why even go to work? So people were pretty much
Under
prisoners.
house arrest.
Yeah, under house
Hostage.
arrest. Yeah, it's like people talk about the COVID situation. Oh, I can't go outside, and I can't do this, I can't do that.
Mm.
That was for 2 years at the very maximum. This was like for the past 40 years in El Salvador. So 4 years ago, we elected a new president, Bukele,
Mm.
and he came with a lot of hope for people, and they did the work, and they started to improve things. The problem is, how can you improve when there's so much negativity? There's gang violence, cartels. I mean, everyone,
It's septic.
yeah,
It's just
everyone's just shitting on this little
shit
country.
on top of shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost like you need a reset. But how do you create that reset? Because there's like, you can't just go arresting everybody, right?
Right.
And so the things improved, and then they got worse. I think 2020, 2021, by the way, these are just, I'm just remembering these stats. So, if who's ever watching, they can go and look it up for themselves. But we were like on a homicide level, 5,000 homicides a year. 5,000
In
homicides.
a country the size of like New Brunswick,
Yeah,
or less.
it's a peanut.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a crumb if you look at it
Yeah.
like from the world perspective. There's a little crumbs called El
Yeah.
Salvador, and so biggest murder rate, biggest crime infested country. Nothing but negative. There was no tourism. There's zero going on.
Mm.
And then they had, I think, I can't remember. I'm trying to translate this into English, but it was like the bloody weekend or something. In one weekend, there was like 187 homicides, and it was just, it was kind of out of control. And they deemed it safer in Afghanistan than in El Salvador at
Wow.
that time, murder capital of the world.
Insane.
And so the president, he said, this is terrorism. This is not criminal activity. This is not gang violence. This is terrorism.
Terrorism.
And so he used the terrorist act to engage the military, and they went and they incarcerated thousands of people within a very short amount of time. I think right now there's 122,000 people incarcerated, and it was a very like really drastic measure that was taken during a drastic time, and people talk about human rights, and I agree. I see how someone from the outside could say, "Wow, there was all these incarcerations. Was this? Did these people, go through proper uh,
Due
court? Yeah,
process.
due process and all that?" And I see from the world that from
Outside looking in.
looking in, but when there is 5,000 homicides a year, the people that are dead, their families, where was the due process? The the the,
Their human rights.
where was their human rights? So you're in a war zone, and so you have to take drastic measures. And the result was that it worked, because once you took, and granted, there's probably innocent people that
Sure.
were part of that sweep,
Mhm.
and there's families that are hurt, and there's a lot of people that don't are not for massive incarcerations. But what are you going to do? That's my question. What was yours? What was, like, okay, you I agree with you. There shouldn't have been this massive incarceration, but what's your solution? You can't just do nothing. And there's been 40
No.
years of nothing but negativity, homicides, people dying. So at what point are you going to say this has to stop? If there was 5,000 homicides in Canada, I
Could you
think there
imagine?
would be. I think any leader, any world leader, would have to take very similar measures to protect their citizens.
And people would say, well, if it was 5,000 homicides in Canada, surely the UN and NATO would step in and help out. But in these countries, it's almost like it's being allowed to happen. Well, this is my opinion. It's being allowed to, or it's just the international community is not
Yeah,
really giving a hoot
yeah.
about these lives, and these lives matter.
Everybody's life matters.
Yeah.
And again, this is just our
Yeah.
opinion, our humble opinion here. This is not a political conversation
No, no,
by any means.
no.
But the result was extremely positive, where now people can go on this, walk on the streets. Tourism has picked up again. Canadians are going to El Salvador, and it's like night and day, because now when you have the crime rate reduced by 95%, to the point that we went from 5,000 homicides a year to this year we celebrated zero.
That's insane.
Zero homicides.
That is insane to me.
And so there's a lot to be said about that. There is there's a lot more work to do.
Yeah.
You can't just incarcerate all these people. You got to rehabilitate, because what are you going to do? Like, you have to educate. And so what El Salvador did is they built one of the biggest prisons in the world. And it's not just like, when you go to a developing nation, the developing countries, and you see their prisons, these are not, they're not humane. But these are state of the art. This is a state of the art prison, and
Modern facilities,
modern facility,
mega facility.
mega facility. And the objective is to, at some point, and by the way, I don't have all the insights, I don't have all the answers, but it is to rehabilitate, help all these people that are in there now get back into the workforce, right? So right now they're helping rebuild the country,
Mm.
rebuild roads, infrastructure. We just, if you go on Instagram, type in El Salvador and you type in library, we just built a beautiful public library for all the citizens, and infrastructure. We just had Miss America, Miss Universe there.
Who won that?
Nicaragua. So there's a lot of positivity, and after this retreat that we're having, I'm headed there. And I'm headed there for the first time since 1998.
With your wife.
Yeah.
So, on a scale of 1 to 10, and 10 being the most extreme anticipation, and like, kind of like when you're a kid and you're waiting for Santa Claus, where would you rate your excitement level like at this point in time? About
100.
hundreds, yeah.
Because of what it means.
It represents.
It's like, I think a lot of people, and you can only really understand if you come from a developing country where it's been shit on for so long, that for the very first time you can actually go back. And you can go back, because when I went back in 98, we were in the house. You can't go outside at night.
Yeah.
I was with my abuelita, and you know what I
Don't show
mean.
your tattoos.
Yeah,
Like,
and
just
yeah, yeah.
don't
Everyone's
stand out.
yeah. So everyone was on high alert, and you know, it's not a vacation. I didn't. It was just like I went there to see my grandmother, right?
Mm.
But to be in this position now, and to be in the position that I'm in, where I can actually go back and invest
So that
and
was something
create.
I wanted to
Yeah,
ask you. How do you see yourself fitting into this reset, fitting into this monumental shift of El Salvador?
there's more Salvadorians outside of El Salvador than inside of El Salvador,
Yes.
and I think if I can challenge any Salvadorian, would
Mm.
be to go back and invest in something, in a company, in a piece of real estate. You know, buy a tree, buy a quarter of an acre, buy a piece of land, buy a fruit, buy a mango, whatever you got to do. Buy into rum.
Mm.
Go buy some stocks. Um, buy cigars. Whatever you got to do, but we want to bring those dollars,
Yeah.
and we want to bring them back to, because that's going to stimulate the economy. That's what it needs. And the government's job is to, now I don't think now we can go back. We can't go back.
That would be a catastrophic. Um, in Spanish, it's fracaso.
Hmm.
Like a massive. Uh,
Then what was all this for?
yeah, it's yeah. No, no, no.
There's still people with us. Salud. If you're just tuning in, we are having a good time. We're having a conversation here with Luis, and we do appreciate you guys for checking in on our conversation. If you're just tuning in, on the right hand side, you'll see there's a chat box. If you want to throw your comments in that chat box,
Questions.
questions, whatever you want,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
here
yeah,
for you guys.
yeah, yeah. I wanna, I wanna ask you, I wanna ask you some challenging questions, and you're well within your rights to not want to answer them. But don't be scared. Don't be scared. Um, I want to ask you some questions about the people you've impacted because if we look at just Wealth Genius, uh, the Quadra Group, Arca, you have helped, I would say, dozens of people retire,
Mhm.
leave their jobs, improve their network. Like you've created essentially dozens of multimillionaires. How does that like what does that feel like, man? Like honestly, like how do you how do you describe that?
It's not like when I was a kid, I would say this is what I want to do, right? I would say that it's the opposite. When I was a teenager, I was always asking, what's in it for me,
Normal.
you know, and why is the world this way? Why are people against me?
Mm.
Why
Why is it so hard?
why is it so hard? Why me, right? Why me? So the mindset that I had as a teenager could be from upbringing, could be from paradigms, could be from many things. The mindset that I had was life is happening to me, and I have no control. So this is the cards that God dealt me, and I just got to deal with it, you know. And so, you know, things would happen to me. I didn't do good in school. Well, I'm just dumb, right?
Mm.
You know, I get in trouble. Well, that's just, I'm always, you know, of course, you know, my skin color or whatever excuse that I had. And when I became a father, something happened to me.
Same.
It was like I don't know, a little like a spark, or who knows what it was. But it's like it doesn't. The excuses didn't matter anymore because it was all about this little girl.
Mm.
And my mission at the very beginning was to make her proud of me, right? What could I do
Mm.
so I could set an example for this little girl, right? And it's like I automatically stepped up. I was obsessed with being a good father, even though I didn't even know what that looked like because I didn't have a father, right? And so what I realized quickly is that I wasn't going to be able to do it in the job, like, you know, getting a job, you know? And so I started to quickly think about what's the life that I wanted for this little girl, and what were the goals and how I was going to get there. And so I started a business because I didn't have many skills. Um, I had to bring other people on board to make that happen, to make that business happen, right? So, you know, I had to bring in someone that had accounting skills, and I had to bring in people that had branding skills, and you know
The
what I
team.
the team,
The team.
and what I realized is that I naturally was stepping into that leadership role,
Mm.
and the only way that I could get what I want was to help all of the people around me get what they want. And as innocent as that sounds, or as selfish as that sounds, that's how it all started. It started by, I know that to get what I want, I have to help all these people get what they want. And the more I helped, the more I supported, the more I can empower people, the more I can create, the more I can create a vision and communicate that vision to everybody around me, the more people were drawn to me, and they believed in the message, the vision, and whatever business that I've been in, you know, for the past 28 years I've been in business. And so what I realized is that we are all in full control of our destiny.
Mm.
And life is not happening to you, you're making life happen. And so my obsession is to help as many people as possible, whoever wants to listen. But I want to impact millions of people's lives. And I almost put people before myself. I want to make sure that everyone gets the results that they're looking for, because I know I'm going to be taken care of. If
Mm.
I can be in a position where I can help a billion people's lives, I know my life will be taken care of. So who cares about my life, right? It's all about how can I add value? How can I impact people? How can I lead in a way where, you know what, I'm bringing people to something positive.
Mm.
Because you could bring people to something negative, right? You
Yeah.
could use leadership, and you could use all of your skills.
There's negative leadership out
Yeah,
there. There's tons of it.
yeah.
It's rampant.
And so what I want to be known for is the person that created freedom for my family, right? It's like I want my kids to be able to walk anywhere on this planet, or my grandkids, and be like, your grandfather, old man Cuadra, he was responsible for my family's freedom, right?
Mm. Mm.
And I obsess over that. I think, how can we add more value? How can we help more people? How can we help more of the little guy, the guy that maybe never had an opportunity, never had access to this information.
Mm.
Latino people, people that are marginalized, and and anybody that wants to listen. Really, I want to be that beacon of hope. I want to be that person with the vision,
Mm.
with the tools and the formula that will help them from wherever it is that they are to where they want to go.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think it was yesterday. I was like reading this. It's it's not a horoscope, but it's like an outlook based on numbers. I'm a big numbers guy,
Mhm.
and you didn't want to hear it. You said I already wrote mine. I already know what it's gonna look like, and I really respect that. You know, I really respect that.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of a chat that you and I had on your TV show back
Mhm.
in 2013 when we
Mhm.
were talking a lot about manifesting,
Yeah.
and we weren't specific about the things that we wanted to achieve or even
By the way,
achieve.
if anybody wants to go watch that, it is
Yeah,
on
it
YouTube.
is out there.
Success by Design show, and just go to that Success by Design show channel, and you can watch that episode. We were like 13.
We were kids. We didn't have beards back then.
Yeah.
Our hairs looked different.
Hmm.
We didn't have beards, and we still had our dreams though. And I would argue that our dreams um, are bigger now.
Yeah.
And like, and as I was saying, we weren't like super specific
Oh, I
about
see
what
some
we
questions
wanted
coming
to.
in. I see some
Okay,
questions coming in. You
you guys
guys
are
are
the
the best.
best. Well,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
thank you, thank you, thank you. Micro hard.
So that I can look back on that moment in my life. It was a changing moment in my life, that year 2013. You know, and
Wow, is it that long
it
ago?
was 2013. It
This is
was
like now
11.
it's more than 10 years
It's
ago.
been more than 10 years.
Yeah.
And a lot of the manifestation things that we were talking about, one of them just walked across here. I manifested. You've manifested a lot of these things yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like as time goes on, we're just manifesting bigger and bigger things. And the average person is almost afraid to manifest, and I think it's because some people are afraid of failure, but I think most people are afraid of success.
Yeah. I agree.
They are
The
just petrified of, like, when people say, I can't do that. I can't do what Alfonso is doing. What they really mean is like, I won't do that.
Yeah.
I won't be consistent with my dreams. I won't be consistent with my habits. And those that decide that they end up changing their family trees. And I'm right there with you. I don't even just think about just my kids anymore. I think about their kids. And my
Yeah.
kids are young.
Yeah.
And I want them to say, granddaddy and grandmommy, they created a beautiful legacy,
Yeah.
and I wanna talk about legacy for a minute, and I want to talk about, like, your daughters and their kids that they're gonna have someday.
Mhm.
And you are definitely gonna be granddaddy Quadra someday.
Mhm.
What what like what keeps you up at night? What like what petrifies you? You know, like, what is it that
Well,
makes you, like,
some of the things, it's like people talk about being afraid to die.
mm, that's a
I
good one.
I'm afraid to die early and not finish the work.
Mm,
It's
that's a
incomplete.
that's a good one. Oh,
Incomplete.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know that keeps me up at night. Like it's like this is why uh, a big part of the mission included health for me. Even though I'm having a cigar, but just don't guys don't worry. Don't worry. This is
We're
not.
not inhaling. We're not
But
inhaling.
also, it's not a daily thing for me.
No.
But I had to take care of my health. If I'm really serious about helping others, I can't pass out on stage,
No.
right?
Oh my God.
I can't, because then the mission's incomplete. And I'm sure that the team that we have and everybody that's involved can take it to the finish line. Like I have no doubt.
Right.
I have no doubt. But my contribution would be incomplete because I'm still writing the story. I'm writing my own story, right? So when you had that
Mm,
numerology thing, and there was somebody else wrote that, I don't want, no one's gonna hold my pen.
I love that.
And so the things that keep me up at night is that, am I doing enough?
Mm, mm,
Maybe I run out of, maybe that my time is up tomorrow. Have I done enough to make sure that everyone around us
can
continue?
continue the mission.
Yeah. And so that this is why it's called Wealth Genius. It's not called Alfonso's thing. It's not the
It's not
Alfonso
real
show.
estate genius.
It's nothing about me.
Hmm.
Because if it's about me, then there's no legs. I wanted to create a community where everyone can plug in and bring their best of whatever it is that they love to do,
Mm, mm,
and they can, they can add to it.
mm.
Because my best idea is not even the best idea.
You mentioned legs, and there's one important leg, you know, in our wealth genius equation is Ed.
Yeah.
You know,
Shout outs to
shout outs to
Eddie Bad Boy.
Ed Arias. We are all Eduardos, by the
Hmm.
way.
Hmm.
It's funny how God, the universe just has a funny way of like connecting us all and helping us build this legacy and age. And last night we were also talking about biblical creatures or
Yeah.
characters that have
Yeah.
lived on to be
Yeah.
over 900 years of age and whatnot. And you and I
You,
have
you,
had conversations
but you
where
know
we're
how I
gonna live to
know?
be 120.
You know how I know that?
Mm.
My grandmother. My grandmother read me the Bible every day.
What was her name?
Coco.
Qué linda nombre.
Socorro.
Lindo. Lindo nombre. Let's drink to our grandmothers.
Yeah.
Salud. Look at that beautiful bird, man. Oh my God. Maybe
That's
that's her spirit.
well, yeah, maybe that's my grandmother looking at us.
So tell me about Coco. Like, she raised you.
Hmm. From 2 to 5 years old, I lived with my grandmother.
Mm,
My mom was in politics, and she got caught up in politics, and she was illegally detained, and she was brought to prison,
insane.
and then I had to go live with my grandmother. She was my everything. I mean,
Mom, dad.
yeah, my grandfather, I love my grandfather, but he was an alcoholic,
Mm,
very a tempered man, and old school,
yeah.
right? And put the beats on
Discipline,
me, yeah.
discipline, discipline.
Even though I was like 3 4 years old, but it doesn't matter, right? So my grandmother was always like my savior,
The good cop.
the she would console me, and she passed away, probably 10 years ago. Yeah,
How was that?
2012.
How was it when she passed for you? How did you how did you digest that?
I hated it that I couldn't be there. I hated that I didn't visit enough,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and I hated I didn't call enough.
Mm,
I hated when I was 10, my mom would want me to talk to her, but I was like playing with my toys or something, and I was like, and
just
then
being a kid.
yeah, and I was very short with her on the phone and stuff, and those things came back and haunted me, and I felt horrible about it. But you know, I think she understands, and she's watching me always.
It's beautiful. I can relate to that. I mean, my parents were always there for us, and my brothers. but my grandparents, you know, in our Latin American culture, the grandparents are like level two
Mm-hmm.
parents,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
It's like the
Did you
tribal.
live with your grandparents?
No,
Yeah.
but I mean, I was there every single day. You know, I might as well have lived in their home because I
Yeah.
was raised by them. And I remember when they passed, it was extremely difficult
Mm-hmm.
for the entire family to deal with.
Did you did you have an opportunity to go to the funeral and all that?
Not to the ones that died in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
It was like in Nicaragua, like you die and they put you on the ground like
Yeah.
the next day,
There's
like later that day kind of thing. It's like
yeah. It's like you never had the opportunity to go and the family back home. I understand. Like, where were you before? Where were you in like these last
yeah,
moments?
yeah.
And you know, I'll
Um,
live with that. I'll live with that for
for a minute,
yeah. I know I live that. I will always look at that as the biggest reason that I want to create freedom for people. 2012, I was deep into my business, growing my business, and doing creating what I've created, but I didn't have freedom. I didn't have true freedom, and I want everybody that comes in contact with us to have freedom to, if a loved one dies tomorrow, you can just hop on the next plane and go, right?
I I know you to be a very stoic person. You know what I mean by that? You're like you maintain a presence. You maintain composure.
Hmm.
You don't. I've never seen you get like irate or mad.
Hmm.
I've also never seen you like lose control and like cry. You know, like
Hmm.
I've seen you come close to tearing up in like.
Oh, I cry.
Oh, I know, me too. But you maintain the composure. You know, like for example, like when we were at the last expand. For those of you that don't know, that's our biannual like coming together as a major family. You presented three of my students with major awards, and one of them was Lola,
Mm.
the Eagle of the Year. And
Yeah.
even as I'm saying it, I'm like getting a little bit because the way we've impacted his life and the way he's impacted our lives is it's like nothing short of miraculous. Um, how do you maintain that control?
I never had, when I was a kid, I was led to believe that I had no self control.
Wow,
Yeah. Um, my grandfather, very high tempered,
irate.
yeah, person. It just like would just fly off the handle. My mom is like that in many ways.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, the Cuadras, are,
locos.
yeah. It's like, they're gonna tell you how it is. You know what I mean?
So don't F with us, right? Don't mess with us.
And so when I grew up I grew up with that belief about myself. Like I didn't have self control, and in school I had a tough time integrating into school. I wasn't a good kid. I wasn't a studious kid, and they did all these tests, and it was discovered that I have ADD, I have dyslexia, I have all these things, and so I was labeled disabled, mentally disabled.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and when you talk about confidence, this is one of
It's a
this is
major blow.
yeah. I was 12 years old. I was 12 years old and I couldn't read. And so the school that I was going to, the school that I was going to, couldn't didn't have a special ed program that I needed, so I needed to go to a different school that was outside of my district.
Mm.
And so now I have to take the special bus, the short,
Short bus
the short bus. You know,
with all the other.
yeah, yeah. And I remember, and this is like we're talking about early '90s,
Mm.
and I'm talking about a 12-year-old boy. So I wouldn't use these words today, but when I was 12 years old, I got onto that bus, and there were kids that were hitting their head against the window. There was
Drooling,
drooling,
fighting.
yeah. And what I said to myself, and I want if we're, obviously we're filming this and whatnot, but this is not words that I would use today. But this is what I said to my 12-year-old self. Said this to myself: am I a retard? You know. So then I went to this new school, and one kid on the playground was like, "What? How come you're in this school now?"
Mm.
And I said, "I stabbed a kid
Oh my
at my
god.
other school." You
Oh
know,
my god.
I preferred to be labeled as a bad kid than a dumb kid. Let's just call it dumb kid.
To be politically correct, but that's the word we would have used when we were at that age.
Yeah. So
Disabled.
I went to the special ed class.
Mm.
I'll never forget it. Smaller class. Teacher was Mrs. Stewart.
Okay.
Mrs. Stewart.
Okay.
And it's everybody's turn to read out loud in front of the class. And in my old school, I avoided that like the plague, and I would just act up. And when it came to my turn, I would like throw. I picked up a desk and I threw it at the teacher,
Oh my
because they were trying to make me read in front of the class, and I was so embarrassed. I mean, I went through that already with trying to learn English, with people making fun of my accent or whatnot. And the last thing I want someone making fun of me because I can't read. And so Mrs. Stewart, there's 8 people in this class, right? Small class. Everyone gets the proper attention.
Mm.
And she's like, Alfonso, it's your turn to read in front of the class. I said, I can't. She's like, why? I said, I'm dyslexic. I can't read. She was sitting at her desk. She got up.
Mm.
She came right to my face. I'll never forget this. Like, she came like this close to my face. She smelled like cigarette. Like she was a smoker. Remember when teachers used to smoke back then?
Yeah.
They had the smoking room. She came right like this, and she's like, "Don't ever, ever let someone's opinion or diagnosis or whatever it is become your reality."
Wow.
She's like, "Get up and go in front of the class." That was the first teacher that ever broke through.
Mm.
That ever, like, I was like, for whatever reason, I was like scared enough and with enough respect that I'm just gonna, because that was like my mom. My
Mm.
mom called me on my shit.
Right. Right.
And it wasn't that I couldn't learn, it's just I have a different way of learning, right? And so uh, she, like, in terms of mathematics, English, all of these courses, like I would ace all of these courses, because like from that moment something changed and shifted. Now I still was I still got into trouble. I still had a temper. I still have temper tantrums or whatever. And in my 20s, I realized that, wait a minute, How come that teacher made me change? And maybe all of these issues in my life are maybe created by me. And I did a lot of self work, and I realized that that's a story that I was telling myself. I have no
Mm,
self control.
mm.
I have a temper problem. Like,
I'm a loser.
yeah,
I'm an immigrant.
whatever the story you tell yourself, that will
Mm,
become your reality. And so I changed the story. I said I'm someone that people look up to. I'm the example for people. I have to
mm,
set the example.
mm.
I have to watch the things that I say, because everyone is. If I want to be a leader, if I'm really serious about helping billions of people, then everyone's looking at me.
Were you thinking about that when you were a kid?
Not
Like
when I was a kid,
leading
but when I in my
in your
20s.
20s?
Yeah, when I did the self work, and I realized that if I want to help people's lives, if I want to impact people's lives, I have to be a leader, and the leader leads, and you're setting the example for people that follow you. And what kind of example am I going to be setting if I don't have self control over myself? And so it's a responsibility.
Oh,
What
did it
happened?
end?
Oh,
We re-
something must have happened with
did we
the.
reach a
No,
max or
no,
something?
it must have happened with it's the internet. Something must have happened with the internet. Stream
Shoot.
finished, but it's all right because we can. I'll restart it. So that's been my life. My life has been a pursuit of leadership. How can I be a better leader? How can I improve myself so now I can be the example to others? Your life is the example to the world. You're setting the example for your kids, your family. That's where it starts. But then the people that are indirectly following you, but they're around you, your friends, your family, you have a responsibility to those people
Mm,
as a leader,
yeah.
right? And as leaders, we really can't we can't take the luxury of losing composure, allowing outside elements impact the way we feel or control us. This is why I don't watch the news, right?
Mm,
Because the news will impact my emotions,
big time.
and then I can't be a good leader.
Let's go. Let's go back in time to 1980s, 90s when you were that kid, and what would you say to that kid? What would be your advice to that kid, that that stabbing kid, that chucking desks kid? What would you say to that kid? Okay, you always joke about walking on the beach, freedom 55, wearing linen. What would you say to that kid? Not the future version or so. What would you say? What would you go back to? What would you say to that kid?
I'm thinking about your question. Actually, could you lift that for a second? Because I need to know where the live is. We're just resetting this.
That's okay. This is live.
Mhm.
What would you say to that kid? That wounded kid, that damaged kid, if you could go back now as you, as this guy right now beside me, what would you say?
You see, have you heard of the butterfly effect? You know the butterfly effect? And we like Back to the Future. We love it. If you go back and change something, the butterfly effect says if you go back in time and you kill a butterfly, even though that's such a small, insignificant thing, you set up, you create a ripple effect, and when you come back to present time, everything's different. I really wouldn't want to change that. I wouldn't want to change my experience, and I wouldn't say anything to myself. You know,
You just go back and maybe observe.
I would observe. But if the question is, what would you say to young people today?
Oh yeah, that's a different. But then that's butterfly effect too.
Well, that's okay because they're creating their own experience. I was creating my own experience as a kid, and I didn't have any resources. I didn't have. Um, there was no one to look up to. I didn't have a male role model. Like I had some male role models, but not enough that I could say that I felt like I was supported.
Hmm.
So so if I was talking to like someone that's 12 years old, a young 12-year-old boy or girl, I would say that you are in control of your destiny. You should follow the things that you love. You should you should pursue the things that interest you. You should look for mentors and look for older people that have the life that you want and ask for their advice. Look for programs, look for help, look on YouTube, look for examples of other people that have done the things that you're looking to do and
Emulate.
emulate, create, build. You are in control. You are empowered. You are supported. Um, that's a big part of the mandate of the foundation is to make sure that no one is left behind. You know, and for me, I can't go back to the past, but I can impact the future by sharing my story. Like one of the things that,
In the present.
yeah, in the from the present, because here from the present, I mean, if I would have had access to those role models, and maybe I wouldn't have gone down that dark path, but I just simply didn't have access to it. You know, but looking back in hindsight, for myself, I wouldn't change anything. You know, I wouldn't change anything.
You mentioned dark, the dark times. And you mentioned in our boot camp sometimes too. What can you share with us a really tough time when you were on the streets? Doesn't have to be your darkest moment, but like, can you share a moment where you thought, I'm I'm never coming out of this hole?
The Cuadra family, it's very prideful family. Um, my my grandfather was an intellectual. My mom is an intellectual, and they're so prideful. Like my mom doesn't ask for help,
Mm.
right? She's a strong woman. I was raised as a feminist. You know, I was raised. Anybody can do anything, and you should be able to do things and not ask for help. You know,
Yeah.
so for me, living on the streets, to get to that point, because remember, we don't ask for help, right? And to get to the point where, you know, I'm asking someone for change on the streets, that was a dark moment for me, because that means I'm going against all the beliefs of my family, right? Like, we don't take handouts. You know what I mean? This is not my mom, prideful woman. We didn't have anything, but it was like rent
Or
is always paying on time. You know, my mom said this to me, uh, not having money. So one day I was arguing about taking a shower. I didn't want to take a shower. Who cares? You know what I mean? And it's something along the lines where we didn't have money, so who cares, kind of thing. You know, my mom said that doesn't give you an excuse not to be a man of integrity and not to clean yourself, not to brush your teeth, and you know, just because you don't have money doesn't mean you can't have pride over yourself or your life or what you're doing. So getting to the point where now I'm asking a complete stranger for change on the
mm,
street. It's it was a dark moment for me. How do you get to that point? You know, it's a question. You know, like, I don't think I've shared this with a lot of people, but well, first, how did I end up on the streets? Well, my my mom left. She actually went to El Salvador.
mm,
She was on a trip.
mm,
I was a bad boy. I was a really, like, I was out of control,
mm.
and I decided to throw parties in my apartment. Right?
No.
So now we're getting into the drinks. You see, if you're watching this, you realize that I'm going deep. the,
The drinks, the juice, the magic juice, right at the meetups.
the things that no one I never talk about from stage. Obviously, we don't have the time available.
Right.
But this kid jumped out of my balcony. So I lived on the fifth floor, and this kid jumped off my balcony
In Ottawa.
in Ottawa.
Lord have mercy.
And the way he landed, he broke his ribs, and the hospital, he survived, but the ambulance came, picked him up, and the cops were called. Everyone on the balcony was out looking,
Mm.
and the cops came to the house, broke up the party and whatnot, and then the the manager, the management, they served me this letter that says, you're a disturbance and you have to vacate the apartment.
An end form.
Not well, I don't know what it was called in those days, but it was a lot easier to get people out than
An eviction
an
notice.
eviction notice,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so basically, the here's my options. When my mom was going to come back from El Salvador, she would lose her apartment. We were living in Ottawa housing,
yeah. Mm.
and I mean, the waiting list for those types of apartments, and like, basically, like, I'm destroying our lives over some stupid party.
Mm.
So what I said to the manager, I said, the property manager, I said, if I leave, can my mom stay?
How old were you?
15.
Okay.
15. And so he's like, well, if you leave, you're gonna solve a lot of our problems. You know what I mean? And so that's what I decided to do. I left home. And the eviction went away. My mom got to stay, and I just left. So at 15 years old, what are your options? Group home.
Mm.
I didn't want to go to a group home.
Mm.
Friends. So at the very beginning, all of your friends' parents will bring you in.
Mm.
right?
Mm.
With open arms.
Come on the couch.
Come on the
Couch
couch.
hopping.
Come, like we're gonna. Don't worry. Oh, pobrecito, poor guy. He's down and out. He's doesn't have a home, but eventually you become a burden to uh, parents that are not your parent, and you're 15 and you're eating all the food. You know what I mean? And I'm
Mhm.
still smoking joints in people's houses,
Still
and
partying.
yeah, and eventually, like you burn this bridge, and then so you go to your another friend's house, and then you burn that, and eventually you just run out of friends. And so now there's okay park benches.
So let's pause for a second. So let's get to that night where it's like I've run out of friends. I'm facing the reality that I may have
In
to.
winter.
Then in the winter, I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
for those of you that don't know, winter in Ottawa is not a joke. It's nothing like this.
Yeah.
It's serious. It's life threatening.
Yeah.
No joke.
No joke.
Take us,
You
take
could
us there.
die. You
Take
could
us
die.
there. Take us there. You're facing a night outside. What does that look and feel like?
So the
15.
the first place you go to is the shelter,
Okay.
right? But have you ever gone to the shelter?
I mean, I've volunteered at it, but it's not. I mean, it's not at night. It's
You
not
think
like
about a 15-year-old boy.
it's full of old men,
Yeah,
like
and but
older
these
men.
people are weird and they're scary,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So the shelter was not an option.
Right.
So then you go into the mall, right? And you try to go into different corners of the mall. Eventually there's cameras, there's security, and they kick you out of the mall,
Mm.
right? And now you're like and obviously I didn't have the best jacket, I wasn't dressed the best, you know what I mean, like it just you don't think about these things, you don't think about bringing your best winter jacket or whatever. So what I knew I had was a bank account at the Royal Bank, and I knew that i could I could open the door with my bank account, even though there was negative money. There was no money in the bank account, but at least it opened the door.
Wow.
And that's where I slept that first night. I slept in the, uh, and I've slept in many banks, but I've I remember the first night that I slept in that bank, which at first you find the warmth, no one is there, and it becomes a situation of survival, and so you're happy and you're grateful that you found a place to sleep. And I slept the first night that I slept in a bank. I was woken up by one of the tellers.
In the morning.
Yeah, in the morning when they're coming in or whatnot, and it's like, "Shoo, get out of here," you know. And you wake up and you've probably only really had like 3 hours sleep or whatever, and you just like wake up and you see this person and you're like, you're so apologetic. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And you feel like shit. You feel like the gum underneath someone's shoe. And then you're cold. You have no money, and the best thing that could happen to you is you find a cigarette butt half smoked, and you're like, oh, thank God, you know. And on that in that same drag, it used to be under Rideau Street. Used to be underneath bus shelters. Like it was a whole bus shelter on Rideau Street. So it's like at least it's warm, warmer in there.
Oh yes, I remember those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so you'll spend your morning there trying to like get some change or something, so you can go to Timmy's and buy something or whatever, you know. And that's kind of like the experience that I had. I slept in that National Bank. So there's all these banks. So there's like the Royal Bank, there's National Bank of Canada, and now this bank, Royal Bank, converted into Joey. Where the Royal Bank used to be is now Joey. And
The expensive restaurant.
the expensive restaurant, which I love going there because it really, like, every time I go there, I think about where I've slept, and I've signed multi-million-dollar deals in that restaurant. But I would say, when you ask me what's my darkest moments, I would say those are some of the darkest ones. Mostly because of my upbringing and having to ask complete strangers to give you a cigarette, or asking for change or whatever. Uh, it was humiliating, and it was dark.
I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine. What was your relationship with God like at that time?
No relationship, zero.
Zero.
Um, in fact, if there was a God, how could this happen to me? Right? If there was a God, how
Could
how
this?
come so many people suffer, and how come I'm in the middle of it, and why is life always happening? Like, why am I this person that attracts so much negativity in my life? So at that point, there was zero reflection. uh, I had no, I didn't take any responsibility over myself or my life, and it was just a circumstance that, you know what, this is the cards that I was dealt.
How is your relationship with God now? What does that look like? Because you don't talk about religion or spirituality. I know you to be very spiritual, but you're not specific about what that relationship looks and feels like.
I have a deep relationship with God. When you ask me if I can go back and change, what would I say to myself? I wouldn't say anything, because I needed to experience all of the darkness
Mm.
to see the light. I think it was in my 20s where I started to do a lot of self reflection. My grandmother was Catholic, my mom is atheist,
Wow.
and so I grew up with this.
Wow.
I grew up with this conflicting
Wow.
theories, right?
Opposing worlds.
Yeah.
Jeez. Wow.
And so when I started to invest in myself and do the work in myself, I started to realize that, it would be, first of all, it's in my opinion, this is only my opinion, to it's it would be very arrogant to think that the entire universe, in its vastness of this universe, that the only thing that matters is this little crumb of earth, and that nothing is, everything just is. There's a purpose for things and people, and we all come with a with a blank slate to this existence. And in my personal opinion, there's other things that are working here that we don't even understand, right? And so, how do I how do I put that into words?
Mm.
Spirituality,
Mm.
meditation, personal growth, working on yourself, right? The For me, religion, and this is just my opinion, it gets in the way of the spirituality,
100%.
because religion it's all about conforming,
Mm.
and not being, just, following doctrine, like a certain doctrine. And I just feel, as a humanity, we don't know enough about ourselves to even, you know, to even say that this is the only way. And if it's not this exact way, it's not gonna work, right? So religion does get in the way of spirituality, prayer. I pray a lot, I meditate a lot, and through that I found God, and through my prayer and meditation, I've been able to um, become very spiritual, which is a very big part of what you asked before. Is like, how do I become so composed? God. When I'm inspired, when I am when I am turned on to the frequencies of the whatever the source is, and I won't even be able to talk about it because I don't know what it is.
Mm.
But when I'm in my
Zone.
zone, when I'm enlightened, I know I can create anything. And so the composure comes from understanding that my responsibility is to the people around me, and at that point, it's like I have to be an example. I have to be an example to the people around me, and so that's my spirituality. I don't know what you call it. People have put names on it. If you're putting a name on it, then you're going the wrong way. You know.
It's
Uh,
so subjective.
yeah, because it's like, okay, people can say, "Oh, New Age," but now you put a name on it, you
Yeah.
messed it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You put a name on it. The 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 connection that I make is good. What feels good? What feels good for me? That means I'm in alignment with God. What feels good? What feels right? What is um, where is the energy taking me? That's 100% out of what I even know. You know, when I'm on stage and people asking me all these questions, like I'm like possessed at some point. That's not even me,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
That's God. That's God, right? I've been put in this position for a reason, and it's a reason that I don't even understand now. Humanity is where it is right now. We don't understand. You know, you have two kids. I have kids. If you're, if your 4-year old, how old is your youngest?
6.
6. If your 6-year old is asking you about rape,
Hmm.
how do you describe that to him? You can't. You're gonna use other words. You're gonna probably,
Skirt
yeah,
around the
exactly.
real definition.
We are 4-year-old infants as a society,
Mm.
and the higher power, whatever your belief is is not going to is not going to you're not ready for that information.
Mm-hmm.
We collectively as a species are not ready to know all that there is, and because we haven't grown enough. We just we just abolished slavery 100 years ago or 50 years ago or whatever it was. Like, we're still
We're not even adolescents yet.
not even. And so there's a lot of things that we need to discover about ourselves as a society, and there's a lot of things that I have to discover about myself as a person, that, you know to add religion to it, it just doesn't it's not in alignment with who I am. And what I'm more focused on is the pursuit of, you know where what kind of person that I can become on this planet while I'm here. What's the impact that I can have? And whatever I'm called to do, I will do it. Right? Whatever, if it means I have to do 200 events, in 1 year, which this is what I did in 2023. That's what I'm called to do. That is not me making that decision. This is a higher power, saying that you are the vessel,
Mm.
and this is what you have to do right now.
You talked about prayer,
Yeah.
and you pray all the time. What will you pray for tonight?
I pray in the morning.
You have a prayer in the morning, prayer
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. My obsession is in helping people. All of my prayers are about what I can help people achieve. I never really pray about. I never really pray about things that I for myself. I don't. I don't think about. Oh, can I get a Lambo? Please, can you give